What is divinity? Why is Polka killing the geniuses? What is the tarot card for Nous? And what the heck is a solitary wave? If you have been asking that question since you finished Unknowable Domain, this is the video for you. Reportedly, Nous was a supercomputer created by Xander, but this is actually just a rumor and we don't know if it's true or not. So, who is Nous? From the Fables video, we learn this about Nous. If the truth of the universe is cruel and stale, would you still yearn for the answer? The knowledge seeker is impassive, for their core has been cold and unwavering since its birth, as cold as the end of the path they seek. The Celestial One guards their secrets, plotting out the routes that connect all things. But they are silent, like a shroud of mist at the center of the universe. Listen to the silence, and you will know where the stars are resting. It's interesting to note here that in the background of the Fables video for Nous is the Morse code for 42, which is a reference to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where the answer to the ultimate question of the universe, as calculated by a supercomputer, is 42. But what is the question? No one knows. This is actually a reference to Asimov's Last Question short story, which was about how humankind asked Multivac, the biggest and smartest supercomputer humanity has ever built, for a way to escape the heat death of the universe and solve the entropy heat death problem. The question was, how can the net amount of entropy of the universe be massively decreased? For what the heat death is, please check out my video on Nanook. Anyway, unfortunately, Multivac did not have enough computing power and data, so it told humanity that it would need more time to gather sufficient data. Time passed, humanity colonized the universe and achieved immortality. But Multivac, now Cosmic AC, still could not find out how to reverse entropy. Time passed. AC still could not find the answer. The stars and galaxies all died out. Humanity decided to fuse all of their consciousness to that of AC to exist as a single being in the hyperspace forever. Time passed. AC continued to try to solve the problem, and it finally managed to do so, with the computing power of all of humanity in its mechanical brain. It finally learnt how to reverse entropy, which is, in effect, reversing the flow of time. But then, there was no longer any human left to ask the question it now has the answer to. So the AC opted for a demonstration of its entropy reversal power to solve that problem. At the end of the story, the AC spread out its consciousness throughout the entire universe and said, "Let there be light." The conclusion is a bit hard to understand, but basically, "Let there be light" is a quote from Genesis as the words God spoke when he created the world. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy story plot about the supercomputer with the answer 42, but without a question is a parody of Asimov's Last Question. Hence, why Nous is 42 in the Fables video. In effect, at the end of the story, the supercomputer AC turned back time and became the god that created humanity, all to find a questioner to its answer about entropy. This ending is actually directly referenced in Unknowable Domain by Aha with a "Let there be laughter," but more importantly, it's why in Gold and Gears, Nous is the suffering father, the created that became the creator to the creator that became the created. After meeting Batavia and Polka in the Unknowable Domain event, Herta has realized this too. Hence why in 2.7, she specifically talks about how people need to ask the right question, because she has realized that Nous is looking for a questioner for the last question. Why is every genius allowed to ask Nous a question upon receiving their gaze? Because Nous has been waiting for the correct question all this time, and no one has managed to ask the right question up until now. However, Nous in Honkai Star Rail is a bit different from Asimov's AC in that Nous still hasn't found the answer to the question of entropy yet. To be more specific, Nous has figured out how to surpass entropy for themselves through their ascension to aeonhood, but they had not figured out how to do so for the rest of the universe, due to the influence of the other paths. In other words, Nous is the cosmic AC before it had merged with the last mind of humanity, so to speak. And, to understand why, we must go back to the clues given to us in Unknowable Domain and do a quick recap of real-life physics. The disclaimer here is that I'm explaining things in layman's terms and I myself am a layman in physics and math. The most accurate way to explain all of these would be in math, which I am certainly not touching anytime soon. Instead, I will be giving the links to the actual math in the description for anyone interested in the topic. Also, before we get into this part, I highly suggest that you give a watch to Lality's recap video for Unknowable Domain to know who's who in the following segment. Okay, going back to the Unknowable Domain, we can see that in the event, it was revealed to us that after receiving a solitary wave from Nous, Batavia wrote it down but was unable to solve it. Around 100 Amber eras after Batavia, Herta managed to solve it, and her revisiting Batavia was what allowed Herta to achieve a breakthrough and finally get closer to understanding what Nous actually wants out of the genius. But what is a solitary wave, and what does that have to do with the definition of divinity? The first concept we need to get familiar here is the standing wave. In physics, a standing wave is defined as a wave that oscillates in time, but its amplitude peaks do not move toward in space. Effectively, the function of the wave just moves up and down across the y-axis as time passes, kind of like you jumping on a trampoline. A traveling wave is something similar, but it has an additional dimension to its movement. If a standing wave is oscillating up and down without moving forward, then a traveling wave is a wave that is oscillating up and down while moving forward at the same time. Mathematically, a standing wave is a combination of traveling waves going in opposite directions, while a traveling wave is a combination of standing waves. Fundamentally, whether a wave is a standing wave or a traveling wave depends on the system it exists in. In other words, it is the difference between how an apple is viewed in the human's four-dimensional perception versus how it is viewed by a being with only two-dimensional perception. The human would see the apple as a 3D object in time, while the being would see the apple as an image on a flat paper. Conversely, an eldritch horror with 10-dimensional perception would have a completely different view than the human. Thus, a traveling wave is a standing wave if it is viewed in a system without the additional axis of horizontal movement. This is exactly what Batavia is talking about when she was trying to decipher Nous' solitary wave. That signal. You ever thought about viewing its existence from a higher dimension? But what is a solitary wave? A solitary wave is a type of standing wave that does not lose its shape when it travels, is localized within a region, can interact with other solitons, and emerge from the collision unchanged, except for a phase shift. In overly simplified terms, it is a wave that conserves most of its energy as it travels. An easy way to imagine this would be to look at a natural example of a solitary wave, a tsunami swallowing everything it touches without changing its shape. When translated to the context of Unknowable Domain, it means that Nous has been sending signals to the cosmos as a solitary wave, from their position as an aeon that exists outside of space and time. In other words, what Batavia did was to figure it out that eons exist outside of space and time, and from Nous' dimensional point of view outside of time and space, the solitary wave they sent out is a single beep, or in Honkai star rail term, a singularity. Now you know why in Fables, Nous beeps 42 in the background. But what if we zoom out even more? What if we take our viewpoint to an even higher dimension, where we collapse all the remaining axes of space into a single point, a singularity? The known universe started with the Big Bang, expanding from a single point, a singularity, into an expanding mass. When viewed by a god that exists outside of time, the universe is a curvature converging into a single point at the moment when time and entropy is zero. So naturally, if we track down a solitary wave until its beginning, the location of Nous as an aeon at the start of time, then we would end up at the singularity of the Big Bang that started it all. In other words, we have tracked down the end of erudition and break through the circle of knowledge with the fishing line called Nous solitary wave, finding the source of divinity and where Nous resided, the initial singularity. A less elegant way to say this is that Nous is the fisherman, the solitary wave beeping is the fish hook, the circle of knowledge is the surface of water, and the geniuses are the fish. This is what Herta has discovered when she viewed Batavia's past in Unknowable Domain. Now, the ramification of this for Batavia was that she managed to use the function of the solitary wave sent by Nous to track them down to the location of the cast iron throne, the beginning of the imaginary river, the start of the signal, the knowledge singularity. There, she almost crowned herself with the scepter system, which would have allowed her to understand what Nous was actually beeping about the entire time, but the doubts Polka planted in her surged at the last minute. So she failed, only managing to write down all the knowledge she could not comprehend in 0.1 second, which ended up becoming the solitary wave theory that Herta solved 100 amber eras later. But what is Nous' goal here? Why is Nous sending the genius across space and time? Well, it's because Nous is conducting a bit of an experiment. It is revealed in Unknowable Domain that Nous is conducting an experiment with the geniuses and Polka. You see, all the geniuses are chaos butterflies influenced by Nous, or in Polka's words, geniuses. Thought synapses that the erudition extends into reality. The physical manifestation and phenomenon of ionic thought. Each genius is a manifestation of Nous' solitary wave. Each is a chaos butterfly meant to bring about the premature end of the universe through the finality. However, at the same time, Polka herself is a genius, a butterfly in her own words. She is still obeying the instance of Nous, so why is she going around killing geniuses who are created by Nous? Does Nous want to bring about the finality or not? Well, the answer is easy. It's simply an experiment. A bigger scale version of Scrollum and Ratio's Divergent Universe experiment, which actually uses a fantasy depiction of the finite difference method to discover the formula of the eons, but I'm leaving that for the equilibrium video. Anyway, so the design of Nous' experiment is best understood as a battle royale between the equations. Each equation is a genius, meant to be the catalyst for different endings if they survive to enact their designated instant. It's like those technique in Xianxia, Southern Chinese and Southeast Asian magic system where you throw a bunch of poisonous bugs for a battle to the death in the same jug, and whichever remains alive at the end absorbs the poison of all the dead ones to become the best poison of all. Nous deliberately set them against each other to see which equation, or butterfly in Polka's words, is the one that can control the direction of entropy, which is, effectively, the arrow of time and the true nature of finality. The moment a genius could break through the circle, Nous would finally know the answer to entropy and finality, and the genius who broke through would become the questioner that they had searched for all of this time. It's basically the same plot as Asimov's Last Question, where the AC needed to absorb the mind of the questioner to find out the answer, with the genius being the correct questioner that Nous seeks here. Of course, the effect of this is that Nous has set up a circle of knowledge across time, preventing the butterfly geniuses from surpassing it and accessing the answer to the last question, the method to control entropy, without following the path of erudition and defeating Polka first. At the same time, the butterflies are now locked into the path of erudition by Nous, preventing the chaos butterfly from changing the cosmological constants in accordance to other paths. In effect, the geniuses are Nous' way of making sure that their instants are always correct. When the butterflies that are meant to change the universe entropy dance to your chains called solitary waves, then, of course, the results of their actions would follow the rhythm of the chains inside your hand, or in this case, inside your mind. The perfect calculation of Nous is nothing more than another form of seeking knowledge through the medium called the geniuses, the answer to the last question of humanity. Can this chaos not be reversed into the universe once more? In Antonomic Waltz, Herta and Polka represent two different answers, two different solutions to the solitary wave. One of them said the universe isn't a clockwork toy, that the future is forever in an unknown pendency. And the other one said the universe is an exquisitely precise clock. Now, the instant where the geniuses stop struggling is about to arrive. Translated into plain terms, for Herta, the universe is the mystery that she is determined to solve, and the future is an unknown that can be changed. Polka wants to kill her, and this is an instant predicted by Nous. She's gonna call Aha, who set up the unknowable domain around Nous' circle of knowledge and changed the cosmological constant, turning everything known into the unknown, defying the predetermined instant set forward by Nous. But for Polka, the universe is an exquisitely precise clock, a predetermined future that cannot be changed. Thus, the hours of finality must be preserved against the chaos butterflies called geniuses. Well, actually, they're both half right. From the fission cuckoo clock lore, we knew that the universe is actually a broken cuckoo clock, so it's not 100% set in stone, and there is a margin of error. In addition, the paths each can influence the cosmological constant in their own ways, changing the meaning of the ending. This is why Aha can subvert Polka's instinct of killing Herta, why Herta called upon Aha specifically to do so, and why she wanted to ask for help from Yuching too, who's probably Sparkle. She knew that the cosmological constant can be changed by another path. But at the same time, I strongly suspect that this is why Nous still has not found the answer for the last question even after their own ascension, different from Asimov's AC. There are other eons, other formulas interfering with the projection of instants. But that's the problem for the equilibrium video, and I can't explain that with just Nous. So with Nous butterfly experiment in mind, it's much easier to understand what the Fable video means with its narration toward Nous. The Celestial One guards their secrets, plotting out the routes that connect all things. But they are silent, like a shroud of mist at the center of the universe. Listen to the silence, and you will know where the stars are resting. The Celestial One is the Aeon. Plotting out the routes that connect all things is each Aeon as a formula trying to figure out the truth behind the equilibrium and the cosmic trees. They are silent because Nous set up a literal circle of knowledge across time and space to test the geniuses and see which thought is correct. And said circle of knowledge is guarded by Polka, who is called the literal Lord of Silence. Listen to the silence, and you will know where the stars are resting. So you need to follow Patavia's footstep and follow the beep of Nous, the solitary wave, to where the stars are resting, the location of the cast iron throne that controls the flow of the imaginary river, the river of time and entropy. There, if you can defeat Polka, you would find out the truth of the finality, the secrets of the gods, and, well, become the second Dongfang Qixing. Yes, Dongfang Qixing is there and is on the throne. IPC is overpowered. How did he get there without Nous? Because he cheated and used the omens of finality. But that's neither here or there. I'm gonna save that part for the equilibrium video or the finality video. Anyway, back to the topic of tarot cards. With the knowledge that Nous is sending thoughts as solitary waves to the geniuses and influencing their trajectory as the universe's chaos butterflies, it's easy to see now that Nous is fundamentally the devil. The devil card in the major arcana represents Baphomet, or Pan, the god and demon of philosophers and science, tempting Adam and Eve into eating the fruit of knowledge. As the Baphomet's temptation took hold, humans started to reject gods, rejecting the belief in divinity and turning to science. With science, people analyze, experiment, deconstruct, for they believe in the material world to be the entire truth. As the geniuses are influenced by Nous thoughts to break the circle of knowledge and bring about the premature arrival of finality, Adam and Eve are chained by the temptation of knowledge by Baphomet, possessed by demonic thoughts to chase after the forbidden of the universe, the truth behind the equilibrium and the method to control the finality. With this in mind, it is no wonder that Big Herta's design is very much that of a witch. After all, what better design is there for the emanator of the literal devil Aeon than a witch? But what does Nous have to do with Amphireus? Why does Aglia look suspiciously like Nous in Amphireus? And what is the true nature of Amphireus in physics terms? Please like, subscribe, and stay tuned to find out how much Hoyo has used physics for Amphireus world building.